it for a garage.
Right, they may take the barn and that 1/3 of the masonry building away with the intent of making a garage. And then when all is said and done, they may say, you know what, we can't afford to make this into a garage. Let's just leave it the way it is, put up a wall, because they're going to have to put up something on the side where they take it apart. And then they'll just have a building that's 12.2 feet away from the property line.
A legally sized accessory structure.
Well, is it pre-existing non-conforming? Well, it's not
No,
pre-existing because we're making it 12.2 feet,
No,
right?
but
You-
the
would-
building would be a legally sized accessory structure, not where it is.
I-
The variance is separate.
Yeah, I thought you said something different, sorry. So what are you thinking, Andrew? Still, that,
You just asked us to present what we saw when we went on the site visit. That building that's there is not really historical. I mean, the barn is definitely historical. The building itself, on the right side, the masonry building, is not really historical. It's, what?
Go ahead.
When you look at it from the outside, it's not,
is that where they had the bottling plant?
That was the creamery.
Yeah.
I don't know if the public comments or the public,
Does it matter whether it was,
That's
in
the
other
old
words,
creamery.
it's not on the registered historical, whatever,
No,
then it's not considered,
Then it's not considered a historical structure. And just to answer your question, I'm sorry, but the public
Oh,
hearing
without a
is
doubt.
closed.
It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. Okay.
so anybody have anything else they want to say before we go over the 5 questions? Shall we go over them? Okay, let's do it. So the first question asks, will the granting of this variance produce an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or create a detriment to nearby properties? The applicant says no. The granting of this variance will allow for the construction of a new single-family home on the property. The design will be contextual with the surrounding residential neighborhood. The existing house and structure will remain on its respective current lot. I think you tend to disagree with that, or do you agree with that, Andrew?
why don't we let some of the other board members opine?
I don't think it's gonna make much of a change. You're gonna add one house to the street.
I'm surprised that they're taking the barn down and leaving the masonry building.
Well, the big
I
barn
think I would have
burned
done it the other way. The barn looks pretty neat.
down. Big barn burned down.
Yeah, but it's, what's in it now? The barn,
You burned a fire truck up.
really? Well, the barn's there. I mean, what's
Not the barn.
a barn? Okay. But they plan to take that down,
Well, if they have to meet the
Probably so that they can
requirements,
meet
then
the-
they gotta take something down.
probably so they can meet that side yard requirement on that side. And then part of the masonry building. So do you think that this will produce an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood by tearing down the barn and granting the variance of a smaller, slightly smaller lot on one side and a 12.2 line on the other?
I don't think so. That's me.
I don't believe it will cause a detriment to the neighborhood. The lot that has a proposed house is well within setbacks, and there's nothing it needs. It's not a huge mansion that's, needing all kinds of, and there's plenty of yard, space around it.
Well, it'll have to go through ARB because of the location anyway, so that,
It'll have to go, oh, yeah.
so how it looks. in the
Right,
context of the
right,
lot.
but as far as the plans that we received,
Correct.
it doesn't appear that there's going to be any issue with
I
it.
don't think so. But
What do you think, Andrew?
I don't think so, Karen.
I don't think so. Craig, you don't think so?
I don't.
Andrew, do you?
I think there will definitely be an effect on the neighborhood there, yes.
Okay, Evan, what do you
And
think?
I'm kind of split on that, and I don't think the house itself will be too different or non-contextual to the neighborhood, but demolishing part of the existing structure will obviously change, and all the other landscaping that will be associated might change the characteristic. So it's a 50-50
50/50.
non-answer.
So what do you do with that?
You move
Just
on
take
to
it
the
as
next
is.
element.
Okay. Okay, number 2. Can the benefit you seek be achieved by some other feasible method other than the variance? The applicant says the benefit sought cannot be achieved by another method. This hardship is due to the pre-existing non-conforming masonry structure located on the property, which will be reduced in size to minimize impact. Also, the zoning code's requirement to deduct steep slope areas from the total lot area to produce a buildable lot results in a hardship. Well, yeah, if there wasn't the easement down by Ridge Road there and there wasn't the slopes, you know, they would have just drawn a line and had
I agree
1
with
acres
this-
each, you know.
I agree with the second part, but I disagree with the first part. If you're going to take 3/4 of that accessory structure down,
The owner could take down that structure right now if he wanted to. Just go in and get a permit.
correct.
Yeah.
But we're being asked to grant a variance because they want to,
Because of the setback.
Because they
Right,
want to
because they
leave the
wanna keep it.
structure, right.
because they want to keep that structure.
But the owner could take down that structure right now if he wanted to.
So you're basically saying there is a feasible method, but not for what they want.
So the fact that, the current owner could effectively pre-demolish the sections that they're talking about and enclose the remainder of whatever it's called, I'll call it the shed, but the garage, proposed garage. What's relevant to us is the context of the setback
Back from the-
to the proposed lot line.
Right.
Right? And can the benefit be achieved by another method? Well, yes.
But
We
then
could-
you lose the lot size.
We could be suggesting, or they could propose, a different line that would have a no setback issue at all, 30 feet, correct?
Right.
And a smaller lot for the new buildable lot.
No, not necessarily.
Yes, yeah,
They
no,
could,
they could
they
absolutely do
could,
that.
they could move, yes, they could do that, or they could leave the 2 lots as proposed and either move the
Demolish the
accessory structure, right, demolish it.
You couldn't move it. I mean, that.
When you create a new one, you can move it into a place where it would be
Correct.
within those appropriate.
There are multiple means that this could be mitigated. I agree with that.
Yeah, I agree that if you're demolishing part of it, it also raises the question of why you can't demolish more to meet setback requirements.
Hey,
Well, because they're going to use part of it.
They want to save costs by keeping it as a garage.
They wanna-
Understood.
Yeah, they want to make a
Yes.
garage out of it.
Well, right now, I don't think it is a garage. It looks like a storage area. I mean, I don't know,
Maybe
you
they'll
know.
maintain it as a storage area.
Yeah, I don't know.
Use case isn't particularly relevant, I don't believe.
It's,
Not from a variance perspective.
no, it's an accessory structure. You would consider it as an accessory structure.
Correct.
So you're saying that there are some feasible alternatives?
Correct. And we spoke about it there.
Yes, yes, we did.
But we're also going on the recommendation of the planning board.
The
Well, the
planning
plan-
board didn't, I just want to clarify one thing. The planning board didn't recommend this specific layout. What they did recommend was that the applicant not proceed with what appeared to be a gerrymandering of the lot to try and squeeze it into the existing setbacks and bulk
So
requirements.
that's why the one lot's .94.
That's, yes. But I just don't want it, I want the record to be clear that this is not a layout that the planning board themselves recommended. They recommended the applicant go back to the table and present something to this board.
Right. It wasn't, right.
So, a theoretical question, right? Would you be more inclined to grant a variance where the lot line
It's all zigzag.
Not zigzags, no. If the lot lines were essentially taken up to eliminate the 12.2 setback issue.
Yes, which is something that I recommended also. Our job is to recommend the minimum required variance for the project. So I also offered that. I said, why don't we, what's the difference between 0.97 and 0.89 acres? Bring that line up 17 feet to keep that structure within code and have a minimal effect on the other two properties. What the project planner told us when we were there was the location of the new house had to be where it was because of setbacks. But if you look, that line that we're talking about right now would not affect the setbacks. If you were to bump that line back, what did we say, 17 feet? Is that what we said?
Correct.
You would not affect any of the setbacks of the proposed new house.
Correct.
Because basically he needs all of the applicant needs all of this
50
distance.
foot here, he's got 40 foot.
Exactly.
there, And he has a side yard setback greater than is required.
Exactly.
So everything's good there. So this is essentially, if you will, an artificial construct, excuse my terminology. And can you hear me? Can you hear me now? This is effectively an artificial construct to get the lot size up as high as it can go.
That's
what it is.
That's my understanding, yes.
Right. So, I mean, back to the question, I guess.
I see your point. Also, and the fact that that land back there is not usable, it doesn't really affect either parcel. In other words, if you move that line 17-something feet, they can't build something on that section anyway, because it's a ravine, it's just not right. And I don't think the property owner on the proposed lot can do anything with it either. So, I mean, yeah, there is a feasible method, but then you're looking at the acreage, you're increasing the variance for the acreage.
You're increasing one and decreasing the other.
Yeah. Right.
Eliminating
Or
the
eliminating.
other.
Well, what
But
I meant was
again, I'm not
increasing
sure
the
that it
amount of
matters.
variance needed.
Correct.
Yeah. So we're split on this one. Okay, let's look at number 3. How substantial is the variance that you are requesting? The applicant says the requested variance is very minor in nature, with only a 3,797 square foot, 9% decrease in net lot area in Lot 1, and a 17.8 feet decrease in side yard setback in Lot 2. I agree with the lot size. I mean,
But the variance-
9.94,
the variance is
that's a minor.
substantial.
What was that?
The variance is substantial.
The second one.
Mike.
Oh,
Kevin, you're talking about the second variance?
yeah. Are we working on the first one or the second one?
Well, no, because it's both, right? They
Both,
say
but I
it's
was
minimal
saying
on,
that-
it's
right.
only 9% on the acreage.
Yeah, that's-
But then they tell us it's only 17 feet on the setback. But if we look at percentages,
Well, 30, yeah, right, if 30 foot is allowed, it's more than half. You
Yeah,
know,
It's
you know,
54,
whatever,
55%.
More than 50%.
So, we're split on that. So I think our hang-up seems to be that 12.2 feet. Doesn't seem to be the acreage.
Can't do
You know.
one without the other.
I know. This will be interesting. Any more discussion on number 3? For whether it's substantial or not?
I'm just going to say again, but by virtue of the fact that it's unusable effectively because of the slope behind that,
Yeah, it's
the
a big-
variance for the 17.8 feet, in my opinion, is not substantial. And if they were to tear that building down, they would need to come back for a variance to do anything with it, and the zoning board at that time could either say you're granted or no, you have to give a 30-foot setback.
if they were to tear the building down that would be left as a result of this? Is that what you're talking about?
Correct. If some point in the future, they decided to completely remove that structure and, let's say, build a new garage, because that existing structure was whatever. Let's say it gets hit by a tornado. I'm making it up, right? I'm going on the fly here. To replace that, they would need a variance, and the board at that time could either grant it and say, okay, we'll grant that variance, or nope, 30 feet. Maintain the setback requirement.
They built it in the same spot.
Either
might
way,
move
they
it
would need a
somehow.
variance.
If, depending on the amount of destruction, the variance runs with the land, so they
Correct.
would be able to rebuild it in the exact same spot based upon this. If they decided to shift it, enlarge it, et cetera,
Right.
then they would return to you.
Correct. Thank you for that clarification.
Sorry.
So, again, I don't believe that it's substantial in that context.
Anyone else have anything to say on that one before we move on?
No, I just wanted to say, it's obvious that the acreage portion might not be substantial, but, to me, the setback is substantial. And obviously, as you increase or decrease one, you're increasing the other.
Right, so you're playing with numbers here, back and forth. Number 4, will the granting of the variance have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions of the neighborhood or district? The applicant says the requested variance will have no adverse impact on the neighborhood. Municipal sewer and water utilities exist and are available for the new lot. The residential nature of the neighborhood will remain intact by design and with existing structures.
I'm good with that.
I don't think it will have any adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions. We're talking one house on a lot, and we're talking basically increasing the yard area by removing those accessory building part of one and one whole other one.
I agree, and would just note that the potential issue with the well inside that structure would be under the purview of the planning board.
Right. Anyone else have comments on that one?
Yeah, I would agree with that as well, with Mr. Brady's comment that the well itself and what comes of that and more information about that is under the purview of the planning board. But
Right.
that could
And
be
so
an
can we
object.
put something in there that they need to really look at that?
Yeah.
Okay. And number 5, is the alleged difficulty self-created? The applicant says
It
that
always is.
this difficulty is self-created in requesting for a 2-lot subdivision that requires a side yard and lot area variance. Okay, wow. So we were split on a lot of them. So now I guess,
Do we have to vote on the 2 variances together, or can we vote on each of the variances?
What I would do is I would recommend authorizing the drafting, as Craig likes to phrase the motion. But it would be separated. I can separate it. The board's discussion was pretty much setback and lot area. So I can separate your discussion in the variance and you can vote on those separately.
We're not even agreed on that yet,
I don't know
so.
if that's gonna make, if you agree on the one and not on the other, then
how did they proceed?
That's for the applicant to reconfigure if needed. But engineers can do a lot of things. You're just charged with balancing the 5 factors. You're not stuck to this. You also are not charged with designing an applicant's project for you. He could take what he's hearing tonight and say, wait a minute, I've got a great idea, and ask you not to act at your next meeting, something like that, while he revises it. He's heard all of your comments. It's not up to you to design it, but there are options available to engineers, architects, and consultants to shift lot lines, et cetera, if need be. If, for example, if one was granted and the other wasn't, they'd have to react to that and see if they wanted to proceed with the project at all or change the requests.
all right, let's do it.
Okay, which one do we want to vote on first?
Oop. I didn't think you were voting.
No,
Voting
no.
tonight?
no,
I thought you were just
Oh, that's
authorizing the
right.
resolution.
Are we gonna have a decision
Well,
drawn
we
up?
have to decide, oh, I see, you're going to take what we said and put it, and then...
Well, we among us may not agree with that. So, for example,
Right, that's- oh, we don't.
I may feel one way, but the other four members may feel that drafting a motion in another direction. So we have to deliberate on what we want to instruct council to do.
Yes.
Take a vote on each one, and then we'll do the council the way, take a vote on how would we actually vote?
Should we have a motion
No,
for each one's, not a motion, but should we take an informal vote? Can we do an informal?
Well, I think I gathered everyone's position and how everyone would be voting.
that's
But-
good.
But you certainly can do that. I'm trying to think of what you've done in the past. Yeah, I don't
I
think
think in the past it
previously.
was more clear cut, and I think it was easier. This is a tough,
For example, Madam Chair, for example, you could say, members of the ZBA, I'm making a motion to instruct council to provide, based on the conversation here tonight, a favorable decision on one thing and a non-favorable decision on another thing, and then ask the board if they agree with what you're saying, and the board, with its votes to that, could lead you to different instructions to council. Counselor?
I think that is a great suggestion.
Well, I do, and I guess I'm gonna, at the risk of, I don't know, a risk of something, if the board goes ahead, I think it's in the, and I'm stating this kind of for the record so that the applicant understands that, and I'm sure you do, that if the board denies the variance, then, and you come back seeking a new variance, right?
He can, but it's subject to a rehearing, which requires a unanimous vote of the board for a rehearing.
A supermajority, not unanimous.
No, it
right?
has to be
It has to be unanimous.
Yeah.
But what if
Okay.
he changes the plan? He still has to get it
It's-
unanimous?
It depends on how the plan is changed. If it's simply shifting it by 2 feet, that's essentially the same, and I would say that that would qualify as a rehearing. If there's something that is basically not the same application, then that would not be a rehearing.
that would be a brand new.
That would be a new application, yes.
So would shifting it, I don't know, 10 feet? Where do you draw the line?
Honestly, I would have to see what the applicant would propose. I don't want to give a legal opinion on, I'm not sure what a design professional would come up with.
Or if the project manager were to come back and say, for example, we're completely removing an accessory structure and there's no longer a need for this variance.
They could certainly do that, and then your decision would simply exclude consideration of that setback. Sorry. Me leaning forward means I can't see all of you. I'll hold it.
So,
So, I mean, I put that out there. Obviously, I put that out there, giving the applicant the opportunity to basically say, please defer your decision, and carry this over, because I want to consult and see if changes are warranted.
David, would you like to do that? Yes.
yes, please.
It's very unfortunate because, we remove the structure, exposes the well to the site. And what's going to happen? It's going to have to be filled because that becomes a hazard to the area. Someone could fall in it, something like that could happen. So, this would be the best way to protect it. If the accessory structure is becoming such a concern, quite honestly, the owner would tear it down. I don't agree. I would hold on to the portion of it. You have an opportunity here to protect something. It complies with the zoning code. I think it would be very unfortunate.
So the context of moving that lot line back,
It wouldn't need to. Once, if the accessory structure came down, there would be no side yard setback.
correct, you wouldn't need it, but I think, I would generally think that, I'll speak for myself, I would agree with you that keeping that structure makes sense. So do you want the opportunity to speak to your client about moving that lot line so that it doesn't need that variance?
Greg, I appreciate your thought. If you look at the first page, though, where it shows the steep slopes, moving the lot line further up the page includes more of those steep slopes, which would even be impacting the lot area that much more, because I have to net the steep slopes from the gross area of the change. So it wouldn't be the proportion that you had mentioned, it'd probably be even greater. That lot line where it is right now, both lot lines are in their most optimum position. They really are.
To keep the lot area as close to
Exactly.
1 acre as possible.
As possible, given the steep slopes. You know, and as mentioned before, we proposed a subdivision that had 1 acre each lot.
Right.
I mean, quite honestly, we proposed it. It was it's on record. You know, it was just not accepted well, or however, it didn't meet everyone's expectations. put it that
However,
way. So,
if you were to say hypothetically, it was easier to demolish the entire thing, and then by that logic, you would potentially be able to move the lot line south, and then get your 1 acre per lot, and have no setback requirement. Then you wouldn't need any zoning variances.
we won't get that close. It'll be close, but it won't be that close, where no variance would be needed for lot area. But I appreciate the thought, I mean, quite honestly.
So the owner would be willing to tear down the accessory structure.
Yes.
So what's the concern with that, eliminating the need for the second variance?
There is no concern.
Fair.
There is no concern at all.
Are you representing tonight that your client will tear down the accessory structure, or do you want to speak with them first?
I would like to speak with them first, however, it had come up in previous conversations.
Okay.
And
I just
I
wanted
think,
to
I
make
think
sure.
it's most unfortunate that would occur. First of all, it's a private well, it's not owned by the town or the village or the state. There's no question about it, or else there would be covenants and restrictions associated with the well. It's private. It could literally be taken down and filled in and nothing stop it from doing so.
Why does the accessory structure have to remain in order for the well to remain? There's not other measures that you can take to protect the well while removing?
Why open up a hole in the ground that anybody could walk through? You can't even have a pool in your backyard unless it's fenced in, because somebody could walk in from another property. So what would be the purpose of it? There would be no purpose to do so.
So what's the purpose of it now with the accessory structure?
It would cover the well. You know, it would leave it there, and then we could still use portions of that existing shed or accessory structure. But you know what? It's not worth. I pushed for it because I felt that it warranted the effort to keep it. Once it's gone, it's gone. It's very unfortunate that we're not taking that into consideration for a line that's virtually not seen. That point is very poignant. So if this is the thrust of the conversation, then I would ask that the board defer and let me talk to the applicant and the owner and eliminate that one portion if need be.
Sorry, I was just typing that.
Yeah, I'd hate for that to happen.
But that's only if you're denied.
That's only if I'm denied.
Right,
But
if we don't know
I'm
how
not
the vote
sure,
will go.
I can't glean or discern from the conversation whether or not the removal of that entire structure would warrant a new application, or would require or be considered as a new application so that we would be able to come back before the board? Is it that much of an impact and scope of work to do so?
It would depend on what you're proposing.
Well, you wouldn't need a variance at that point, so you wouldn't need
We're
to come
going to
back.
need an area variance.
Well,
Then you-
hypothetically, if you got the area variance, but you did not get the setback variance, if you're okay with tearing down the accessory structure, you wouldn't need the setback variance.
If you're going to vote on the variances separate, well, I'm just reiterating, it appears that you're going to vote on the variances separately, which I find interesting, but in so doing, I would agree. You know, the area variance is, you know, worth everything to us in that sense, and then the side yard setback is superfluous. It's unfortunate, but it's of no consequence to us.
So why don't I suggest the following? The board doesn't take action until it formally approves or whatever the written decision is. So you have some time before the next meeting, should something change. But the board can make a motion so far as authorizing a drafting of a decision, favorable, unfavorable, mixed, whatever your preference is. And that way it can move the application along. He'll either have a determination at the next meeting, or it would be revised, and I would provide an amended one to the board and the chairwoman. But now the applicant knows the board's thoughts, and you have heard from the applicant on this, and he's just simply asking that you not vote tonight, but all you would be doing is authorizing a decision this evening.
But shouldn't both variances be one way or the other as far as, and then you vote?
I'm not sure I understand
I'm
what you're
wondering
saying.
how,
Well,
go ahead, Ken.
let's say you make one in favor of and then one against.
Mm-hmm.
And what if the one against doesn't pass? Does that mean they get the variance?
No, then we would have to instruct to take another motion to instruct council to write a different decision, and then we would vote on that until we got a majority of the votes instructing council as to what to write for next month's meeting.
So why shouldn't they both be either a favor or against, and then the vote will tell what happens?
Not necessarily.
Well,
Sure they
because
will.
it may be split, so you would be having me write 3 decisions for your consideration.
Right. So the one may get passed, and then the second may not.
Well, I think that is true, but if you,
And it makes it simpler.
for you,
Well, so,
drafting 3 decisions would not be in accordance with tonight's discussions. I think that each member of the board knows how they are considering, at least at this time, voting on each of the variances. So I think that the majority of you would authorize me to draft the decision a certain way. Now, you can always change your mind, and you can always make revisions prior to that decision being adopted. It's why Karen doesn't sign all of the decisions that evening if there's a change. But at least you would have something more concrete to review at your next meeting based upon tonight's discussions, rather than reviewing 3 and seeing which one your position is more in line with.
Counselor, we also don't know where everybody feels their decision lies in the split decision, in approving or in denying. So for example, if somebody were to make the motion to have council draft a favorable decision approving the variance, this board tonight would have to vote on instructing council to write that favorable. If that does not pass, we can continue to different instructions to council. But we don't have to stop at one instruction to council. The chair or another member can make a motion, and the other members can decide if they agree with that or not.
That is correct. You could end up with the 3 draft decisions Kevin's suggesting.
Hey, whatever you want to do, but it's
I would suggest that maybe somebody try making one of those motions.
So I would like to make a motion instructing council to write a favorable decision, based on the conversation we've had here tonight, to write a favorable decision in granting the area variance, but a decision denying the request for the setback variance. Did I word that accurately, Counselor?
A favorable decision for the lot area request and denying the setback. Unfavorable decision for the setback. That's fine.
That would be two decisions.
No, that would be one draft that would grant the lot area and deny the setback in one
So we
decision.
would have to agree with that to vote aye.
Correct.
That doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't make sense to me either.
I think what,
There's a motion on the floor, so you should wait for a second before discussion.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Discussion.
The applicant has stated that,
I understand what your motion is and what his second is. I'm having a problem with that because let's say I'm in favor of the lot area and I'm in favor of the,
then you vote.
then you would vote no to this current
right,
motion.
Correct.
which, yeah, but the problem I'm having with that is if there are other people who felt the same way, and, you know, I'm not saying I feel that way, I'm just saying that if
You'll
that
find
was the
out.
case, I know.
And I think
You
you
know.
know.
I don't know, you know, that may deny the whole thing.
No,
No,
there
I
would
think-
probably be another motion
Yeah.
by someone else
Exactly.
making a different recommendation to council.
Oh, for a different draft decision.
Right.
Correct.
Gotcha.
So we're just gonna,
Okay.
we have a motion in a second on this.
So Kevin may get his three, you know, in favor of area and against the lot line.
No,
In
this,
favor of lot line and against the area, or you could have
Well-
four in favor of both, or,
but Karen,
But you
if,
provide me no remedy after that.
I'm sorry.
To have a
what-
split.
What'd you say?
It happens elsewhere too. You would just have to figure out how to keep one of the lots as .94 and shift the property line.
Okay, so the remedy is removing the need for the side yard setback.
Or, yes,
currently,
in its current layout, yes.
The other option would be that we separate them and make a motion on instructing council on the lot size, and then a separate motion recommending council prepare a draft on the setback.
but we can do that through this process right now.
It's basically what Andrew just said.
No, it's not. It's two separate things that can then be voted on separately.
Okay. I still see it as the same thing, but what I would say would be, why don't we take a vote on what he's asking for, which is basically a
already there.
decision that grants lot area and denies the setback, and see where the board falls on that
Correct.
motion.
Agreed.
Okay. So if you agree with the lot
Well,
area
I mean, if we're
and
going
are
to vote like
against
that, why don't
the,
we start from the
lot
beginning
line,
with
you're
the
gonna
original
vote aye.
application and then go sequence down from
Nope.
that?
I,
This is what we're doing.
I recommended multiple times for people to make multiple motions. And then this is what my motion is. So if this gets voted down, other people could make a motion in accordance with what the application
You
is.
vote with the application.
All right, I'm going to walk you through the motions, but let me get a vote on this one. Evan,
So this is, we're voting now
to authorize a decision to approve the lot area?
and deny the setback. Okay.
Aye.
Aye.
No.
No.
Nay.
Okay, motion fails. Is there a motion to instruct council for a favorable decision, or for a unfavorable decision on both of them, denying both? Anybody want to make that one? No. Is there a motion to instruct council for a favorable decision on both lot area and setback?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Evan.
Sorry, can you repeat the motion?
It's to instruct the drafting of a decision that is favorable on both respects. So it would be to grant the lot area and grant the setback.
No.
No.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Awesome. Sorry, that was a little difficult, but okay. I will prepare said decision for your next meeting. David, these votes are really just for a decision, so they can, as I've said, change their minds at any time prior to acting. You may still want to
This-
speak with your client, just so you have that answer for the next meeting.
This is a draft decision. It's not set in stone until we actually vote on it.
At the next meeting.
Right.
Correct.
But thank you very much. I thought that was very reasonable. Thank you. All right, we'll be here at the next meeting.
All righty.
It might be virtual, so check the website. We're not sure yet.
That's what I'm hearing.
You see what time it is?
Governor handed down the
I
decision.
make a motion for adjournment.
Through January.
Kevin wants me to be quiet.
Not at the end of the
Thank you.
agenda.
What do we gotta do now?
Here we are.
Are we? I'll second the motion.
Okay. Meeting has been adjourned. You got that, Jess, who firsted and seconded? No, Craig did. Thank you, everyone.
Jess, I want, do that all on one page.